Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Friday, October the 13th, 2023. We got some very important details to talk about on Invest 94L as this could become our next named storm. Now, before we do get actually talking about the tropics that a lot of you wanted to know about because you clicked on this video, it's also a good idea that I briefly talk about the annular solar eclipse that's going to be happening tomorrow, Saturday, October the 14th, 2023. We're going to have a ring of fire all the way from Oregon back across the west into Nevada, into Utah, also across the four corners of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and even dipping into southern Texas. This is not a total solar eclipse, and this will be a ring of fire. The next eclipse will be a total solar eclipse on April the 8th, 2024, and that one will last over 4.5 minutes long and will go all the way from Texas into the Midwest into the eastern U.S. I will be making a special video update on this annular solar eclipse, followed by a total solar eclipse. More on that in today's later update. So once again, I will be live streaming on this annular solar eclipse beginning at 8 in the morning Pacific time, 10 in the morning Central Daylight Time. Do not miss it. Mark your calendar and set all notifications on so that way you get notified when I begin my live stream. Hope to see you all there tomorrow. Okay, now, so let's take a look now at the tropics because we do have a lot to talk about to get through with today's update. You saw how long yesterday's video was. We're probably going to make this video about as long, if not longer, because we do have truly a lot to digest. So this look at the true color visible satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. And there it is. There is Invest 94L that has now a 20% and a 20% and an 80% chance of tropical formation in the next 2 to 7 days. An 80% chance, that is, within the next week, which is pretty high. And so anyone living on these islands, and let me kind of circle these all in so you all can see. These leeward and windward islands over here definitely need to be monitoring the progress of this system because, yes, there is a potential that this could make landfall over these islands as a tropical storm, or if not, maybe even a hurricane. Some of the models are already beginning to indicate that we could see a hurricane potentially getting very close to these islands. And like the other systems, those turned northward before hitting the islands, this one might actually get far enough west where it does impact the Virgin Islands, the Greater Antilles, as well as even portions there of the southern windward islands. So just keep that in mind, folks, when watching my future videos, as we are going to be on top of this. So here's a closer zoomed in view on Invest 94L, and we can see that it is trying to become better organized, or she is, because she is going to be our next named storm. That is Tropical Storm Tammy eventually. I do think we're going to have our next name on our list of names. So winds are doing this on the northern side, winds wrap around, and then they kind of do this. So we do have a circulation here. It is not very organized, but with this amount of deep convection rod in here, I think we might start getting some organization going really rapidly here, and that's why the NHC already has an 80% chance on this system. And when we kind of hover right over, you can see with what it says. And we're going to read this because my job is reading this all out to you, okay? So the Eastern Tropical Atlantic as of 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Friday, October the 13th, 2023. A broad area of low pressure located several hundred miles south-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are expected to become more conducive for development by the end of the weekend, while the disturbance begins to move westward across the central tropical Atlantic. Additional development is expected after that, and a tropical depression is likely to form during the early to the middle portion of next week as the system moves steadily westward across the central and western tropical Atlantic. this has now an 80% chance. Yesterday, it only had a 40% chance. So just within 24 hours, we have added a 40% chance of an extra threat in the next 7 days. Not so much in the next 2 days. That hasn't gone up very much. But wow, looking out to 7 days, this red area has not been shifted far enough north. It's not looking like this, right? Where we want to see that. Instead, this red area is aimed right at the islands. And only imagine if we draw a line that does this, we can see this system actually impact these islands. Maybe even Puerto Rico, maybe even the Dominican Republic eventually could be in the crosshairs of Invest 94L, which would be our next named storm, Tropical Storm Tammy. That is, meaning the Atlantic has been really, really busy despite a fairly strong El Nino that is in place. Looking at our latest 12Z operational model guidance, we're going to still start first with the Euro, GFS, then the CMC, then the Icon. We want to compare a lot of these models because there is still a lot of uncertainty to be ironed out based on our latest model guidance. Is this going to go west? Is this going to turn north? Where is it headed, right? Everyone's probably wondering about that. And so we're going to first start off with the Euro. And this is the 12Z run as of October the 13th, 2023. And we're looking at the 850 millibar level, which is at about 5,000 feet above the surface. We're looking at how much cyclonic vorticity there is. That's the color shading, and these different lines are your geopotential heights, and the wind barbs are showing you which way the wind is blowing from. All right, so let's kind of move forward with this, and as we go over the next 5 days, we can see there is our system there on the Euro model, and you all are looking at me being like, whoa, David, what happened with the Euro? It's not very aggressive today, and that's to be expected because it hasn't really formed yet, and so the global models are not sure with what this is going to do just yet. But we do know the Euro does definitely see this as a broad circulation with a lot of vorticity, almost a closed circulation in that matter. By the time we go out to even 180 hours out, it's approaching these islands. So the Windward Islands, like Martinique, if you're on Guadeloupe Island, it's going to be approaching your area. Now, just because it's not a tropical depression at this point, or a tropical storm, or if not a hurricane, there's still going to be impacts. We're talking about lots of rainfall, lots of wind, maybe some surf, and maybe some freshwater flooding with that. If we just go back from yesterday's model run from the 12Z on October the 12th, we can see that it was much stronger right in the same spot. So what we're seeing here is nearly the same system, but it's a little weaker because the model is not seeing it as much as what other models have. That's why we're not just using the Euro today. We're going to be using 3 others after this. So looking at that forecast, you can see it does struggle, but it's definitely a disturbance that we're not going to be ignoring from here on out, especially since the NHC has an 80% chance of tropical formation on this disturbance. That's 94L. So now looking at the latest GFS model, I wanted to show you all this. Here is Tropical Storm Sean. That's not going to be a huge instigator at all. This is actually going this way. It's going to be absorbed by this weather system that is to the northwest. It's actually going to get flung that way. And then we're watching this system. So going forward, same level of the atmosphere, same kind of profile. Actually, portions, actually a little bit of this actually gets splitted off. You can see a little bit of vorticity there, but the main area actually goes this way. Surprisingly, the GFS doesn't have much impetus on that actually re-intensifying. While this system over here is just going to be stretched thin. You can get an idea with a lot of vorticity. And this is a wave envelope that the GFS is having a really hard time. It goes all the way from Central America, and it goes all the way up, and so we have this very, very sharp tropical wave, and we'll see which part of this wave becomes the dominant future for organization. Does it focus down here? Does it focus up here? Usually the northern wave envelope usually tends to kind of grab a lot of the attention. So on this model, at the end of it, you can see with what all happens. It tries to wrap up, and it goes this way. So a whole different scenario on the GFS, and that is over 180 hours out. So that's pretty far out in time. Looking at the Canadian model, on the other hand, a whole different scenario. In fact, it wants a powerful hurricane impacting the northern Leeward Islands, okay, and the windwards, including for the Virgin Islands. So just keep that in mind. Let's go forward, right? There goes Sean, going to be moving north, a little bit of vorticity that's left, and then here she comes. Good old Mrs. Tam. It's going to be very intense here as she heads westward, and this again could become our next named storm. If it does, I don't like pre-naming things, but I'm very confident. I mean, every system this year has been named except for one, and I think this is going to get named. I just think it's going to. So we have our next named storm to contend with here. That would be, again, Tropical Storm Tammy or a hurricane. And in this case, 156 hours out, we could be looking at a very powerful system. Now, the concerning thing about this model is if we go back to the 12Z model from yesterday on the Euro, it's literally in the same spot. Look at that. This is the 12Z, October the 12th. This is the 12Z, October the 13th on the GEM, the Canadian, right exactly in the same spot. So that's why the only model that's really keeping this is the Canadian as a very powerful tropical storm, or if not a hurricane, transversing into the northeastern Caribbean within the next 7 to 8 days. Now, looking at the icon model, another model that I also like to look at is this one. This is the German model, and when we go forward in time out to day 5 for Wednesday and Thursday, it's in the middle of the Atlantic, 985 millibars, and then it tries to get stronger, but this time it wants to stay away from these islands. So we have wild outcomes in today's forecast, but the majority, or the two models, are the GFS that want it out to sea and the icon, while the Canadian and the Euro still want it impacting the island. So there's a 50-50 shot for this to move westward at the moment based on our latest model guidance today. Sea surface temperatures are not a problem at all for this disturbance to move westward at all. In fact, it's going to be moving into even warmer waters of 29 to 30 Celsius. So low to mid 80 Fahrenheit water temperatures are expected once this gets into more of a favorable environment. So a lot of upper ocean heat content, everything is very favorable out there and conducive in this portion of the Caribbean and Western main development region for potential significant tropical development. In fact, look at the latest ocean heat content for October the 13th, 2023. My goodness, this is very significant by all standards. I mean, this is off the charts. In the northwestern Caribbean, as well as the central Caribbean, over 175. And I did some advanced analysis. The upper ocean heat content, and I'm not doing this to hype you all up to cause fear and panic. I'll explain with what this means in just a second. But upper ocean heat content in this area is over 225 kilojoules per centimeter squared too, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, I have never in my entire life, when tracking the tropics, have seen upper ocean heat content this high in the northwestern Caribbean. Boy, if this was September, we would be in some deep trouble right now. If any disturbances moved through the Caribbean and then went into the Gulf, my goodness, if we had Ian at this time last year, oh, this would really, really, really bad. Ian would have probably become a certain category 5 with 180 mile an hour winds, perhaps, you know. So good thing we have no disturbances moving into that area right now, because if we did, oh my gosh, it would really, really be bad because of the upper ocean heat content that is here right at the moment. And speaking of that, look at all these orange colors all in here. That's 125 plus in terms of upper ocean heat content. So what I'm telling you all is there's a lot of heat down there building up in the Caribbean for this disturbance. And boy, if this moves westward as what the Canadian and the Euro show, we could be looking at a whole different ball game. So looking at the latest GEFS tracks and minimum central pressure, this is what it's showing right now. A lot of divergence in the model forecast. We got some tracks that go down here. We got some tracks that go straight westward. We got some tracks that bend off in this direction. And notice the strength of the system. The stronger the system, it's going to tend to move more poleward, similar to Lee, similar to Philippe, and others when they were really strong. Philippe wasn't entirely extremely strong, but you get the idea, right? Stronger systems tend to move more poleward and gain latitude faster. So if this kind of pulls that Philippe kind of thing where it kind of gets underestimated, or it kind of or underplays where in fact the system's not as strong as what forecasts thought, then this is going to go further west, and who knows how far west this could get before it hits a favorable environment. This one has my attention, and I'm going to keep you all updated as long as this remains a threat to the islands. Now, looking at our hurricane model guidance, and I want to make it clear with you all, do not use this map to make decisions. Please seek official info. It's all up here on the top right of the screen. This is not your forecast. This is not saying, oh, this is where it's going to go, okay? We saw this with Philippe, where some of the model guidance was away from the islands. Remember that when we tracked Philippe, right? But then, whoa, what happened? Philippe made landfall. Okay, so this is just kind of a guidance of what might happen based on now, based on the analysis that the models have on this, okay? And the thing is kind of wiggle-woggling around a little bit. So we really don't have a whole lot of we do have important information, but we don't have a whole lot of information on, is this actually going to go this way, or is it just going to go kind of like that? We know for a fact right now at the moment, most of the model guidance has the cone of uncertainty in my books kind of in this direction. So if you see this cone, which you do, there's a potential that, again, this is where it's going to be at within this cone of uncertainty. So that's what that is. So now, how strong could 94L get? Could it become our next named storm, Tammy? And the answer is very likely here at the moment. We do have some subtle strengthening, but it really doesn't take off until we get to day 3. So my intensity forecast is still on the lower end. Actually, let me redo that, my intensity forecast. So I am on the really low end of things. And the reason why is because the GFS as well as the Euro really not compliant in today's update as far as them both showing that we could have a major hurricane. If they both showed it, then my intensity forecast would be raised substantially. Even so, a lot of the intensity guidance is well above mine. In fact, the HMNI and the HWFI wants this as a major hurricane in the next 4 to 6 days, which is a possibility, but probably very unlikely given with what we're seeing right now. And this is probably going to get re-corrected once we get closer to this time frame. But right now, it is not really looking like a big system in the short term, in the next 2 or 3 days. But that could change very quickly. Now, looking at our super blend, I always like looking at this because we're not just looking at the GFS ensemble, but we're also looking at the European ensemble prediction system. We're looking at the GEFS, which is the global ensemble forecasting system, which is the US numerical ensemble. We're looking at the UK Met. We're looking at the CMC. So we're looking at the super blend, the super ensemble forecast, all of the deterministic, all of their ensembles put together into one. And this is what we're getting right now. A very wild outcome. So we have this blue circle, this ellipse, that indicates, again, where the possible area could be, the most likelihood, I should say. And that does cover clearly into Puerto Rico, into the islands for right now. In fact, there is already a 5 to 10% chance that we could have a tropical storm or a hurricane over this portion of the Leeward and Windward Islands, which is a little concerning given how far out this is. This is all the way out to 192 hours out, and we're already seeing a 5 to 10% chance of it making landfall or getting very close of doing so. And these little points, these little dots, are different members. Of course, we don't have a whole lot of members because, again, this is still new to the models, but we have the GEF or the GFS deterministic that is to the south, and we have the Euro, which is right underneath this blue, black line. That's actually the UK map, my bad. The Euro is not even on here. It's not even showing anything at the moment. So now looking at the ensemble from the Euro just let alone, this is kind of a look at with what might end up happening over the next 10 days. And we can see some of these models do indicate a mid to high grade tropical storm approaching Puerto Rico, as well as some of the islands here. Eventually, where this turn occurs, it will be very important. Does it occur? Some of the models do indicate that it might make a turn fairly soon, well away from the islands, versus tracks that would take it all the way west, as far west as perhaps the Dominican Republic, where the turn is much later. And when I mean later is it's much further west, and it's a little longer to do so, impacting a lot more land areas. This could be a very bad scenario. And there's even one model member that wants this to turn directly westward. So therefore, there's a lot of disagreement among the ensembles and the deterministic outputs, where we have the Canadian and the Euro in the southern half of the limit line, and where we have the Icon and the GFS that do something like this that are to the north of the ensemble limit line, which means there's a lot of spread in today's forecast. I do have 3 or 4 important announcements that I do want to mention to you all before you exit and click away from this video. It is really important, folks, that you guys listen very carefully to this portion of the video too. The first announcement will be I am live streaming an annular solar eclipse this Saturday at 10 in the morning Pacific Daylight Time. Please mark your calendar. Please turn on all notifications on this YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel because we are going to be providing the best live stream coverage on this annular solar eclipse, which means the moon is too small to cover the entire surface of the sun, making a ring of fire eclipse that will be viewable across Western America, as well as Central America, Central America, like Venezuela, but also, of course, southern portion of the United States, including the Four Corners region. You do not want to miss this live stream coverage on my channel. Second announcement is if you all want to participate in the Sacramento Weather Center group on Facebook, there will be a link in the description below this video. I do localized weather forecasts for my area, all the way from Redding in California, all the way down towards Turlock in the foothills of the Sierra, in Lake Tahoe, as well as portions of the Bay Area. So if you are local and you watch these YouTube videos, I would really recommend you all to follow me there on the Sacramento Weather Center Facebook group. Thirdly, if you really like GoPro footage, drone footage, weather photography, time lapses, hyperlapses, panorama video, as well as 4K videos, night shots, and much more, please consider subscribing to that YouTube channel today. It is really awesome. I will be uploading more content on that channel. I upload Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if you guys are new, please consider checking that out. And also, if you also want to join the Weather Force Discord server, there will also be a link in the description below this video. If you all want to join today, it is 100% free. There is no cost whatsoever. Well, that's going to basically sum it up for today's video. If you did enjoy the content, please consider subscribing if you're new. Hit the like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media. And never forget, I'm going to be uploading another video, especially on the annular solar eclipse happening across the United States. You all don't want to miss that one. That's going to be very important. I'm going to give you a quick, brief weather forecast along to go with that within the eclipse update. We're also going to be live streaming on this beginning at 10 in the morning Central Time, 8 p.m. or 8 in the morning in Pacific Daylight Time. You do not want to miss this event, folks, on my YouTube channel. In fact, there will be a link to the live stream below this video.